am finally back shooting bus videos after being AWOL for so long working on my business. Hopefully in the next week or so I'll have some actual progress on the bus build to show you guys. But today I'm going to do another Q&A video because I get heaps of questions about different things, and so today I'm going to answer some of them. So I'm just going to jump right in. So the first question is from Mark on Facebook, and he asks, are you going to live full-time in the bus when it's finished? And the answer is yes. That's my plan. I'm going to be living full-time in the bus and traveling around, and hopefully be able to run my business on the road as well. So that is the plan when I eventually get there. Kumagoro6, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that properly, on Instagram, asks, where are you living while building the bus? So at the moment I'm actually living on my parents' property on the outskirts of Brisbane. I actually live in a little shed on the property that's been converted into a kind of a granny flat. I'm lucky in that, you know, there's plenty of room to park the bus, and I've got access to some of my dad's tools in the shed. And lots of space to work on the bus, which is great. So that's where I'm currently living. And you also asked how much longer before the build is complete. Yeah, that's a bit like asking how long's a piece of string. I honestly don't know. One thing I've learned in this whole process is not to set any hard and fast deadlines with the bus, because things always take longer than you think they're going to. Ideally, I'd like to have it finished within the next 6 months. But the reality is I've still got a lot of work to do on it. And as you all know, I'm doing the bus build totally on my own. I'm also trying to do it around running my handmade business, which takes up a lot of time, and I've also got a casual job here in town, so you know, I'm trying to fit bus work in between all of those things. The other challenge I have at the moment is that I'm starting to run out of money, so I don't think I've got quite enough money to do all of the things that I need to finish off the bus. So I'm having to continue to try and save money as I go in order to get it finished. I guess I'm the same as a lot of people at the moment. You know, the economy is not great, and a lot of people are struggling financially at the moment, myself included. So saving money is not as easy as it was a few years ago. It takes a lot longer for me to save money now. So yeah, I just have to see how things go in the next 6 months. Hopefully now that I've reopened the business, I'll start selling stuff again, and I'll get a little bit more money coming in, and I'll be able to finish the bus off sooner. But yeah, it'll be finished when it's finished. Okay, so next question. Ian on Facebook asks, my wife wants to know why we don't see your dog more often in the videos. She says you talk about it a lot, but we don't see it much. Okay, so obviously Pepper's here with me today. Pepper, say hello. Say hello to the camera. Yeah, she's not a big camera person. Yeah, I guess I don't really show her a lot in my videos. It's a little bit tricky because where I'm living, as I said, I'm living on my parents' property. The main part of the property where my shed is and where the bus is parked and where I do most of the work, it is fenced, but it's not a dog-proof fence. So I can't just have Pepper roaming free around that area because she'll abscond. She will take off, she will chase things. So most of the time when I'm outside working on the bus, Pepper's actually over at the main house where there's a fully fenced yard, and she can run around and do whatever she wants safely in there. And also she doesn't really like the noise of the power tools and that. She's very anxious generally, and those kind of noises like freak her out a bit. So she's much happier over in the main house yard while I'm working on the bus. I'll try to include her a little bit more in my videos. Hopefully once we start traveling in the bus and we hit the road, she'll obviously be in lots more videos. But just at the moment while I'm working, and because of where we are, it's really hard. I do post some photos of her on my Instagram, so if you don't already follow me there, go and check that out. I'm at a girl, a dog and a bus on Instagram, and yeah, I probably post more photos of her on there. But she's definitely still here, definitely around, causing trouble. As I get a bit more done on the bus and we can start traveling in it, hopefully you'll see a little bit more of her. Okay, next question. Peter on YouTube asked, he said, I'm interested in the order in which you're doing things. I would have thought you would have roughed in the electrical system and the plumbing by now. What are your plans for the electrical system? And I also had a similar question from Ian on Facebook. He said, are you going to run your wires surface mounted, as I noticed you didn't run wires under the foil board or behind the foil board? Yeah, I actually get asked this question a lot because I know a lot of people, when they're building their buses, do it a little bit like when you're building a house. You know, you do the wall frames and then you rough in the cables for the electrical wiring and the main plumbing pipes and so on, and you actually kind of put them inside the walls. I didn't do that for a couple of reasons. The big one is I actually don't want any of my wiring or any of my plumbing behind the walls. I actually want it to be fully accessible. I want to be able to see it and get to it all if I need to. The other reason why I'm not doing it now is just because it comes down to the finances. I mean, the electrical system is probably, after the cost of the bus purchase itself, is going to be my biggest expense with this whole build, because I'm not skimping on quality with the electrical system. I'm going to have heaps of solar on the roof. I've already got my lithium batteries. I've got a really good quality Victron inverter, solar charger, all of that gear. So that's a really big expense, and I still, even though I've got a lot of the big things in my electrical system, I've already purchased those, I still need to purchase all the wiring and the power points and, you know, the fuses and the lights and all that kind of stuff. So there's still a lot that I need to get, and the reality is I just don't have the money to get that yet. So I always planned for the electrical to kind of be one of the last things that I do in the bus, because I just need that extra time to save the money to be able to do it properly. So my plan is that I'm actually going to run my cables mostly in conduit that will be hidden inside the back of cupboards and things, or along underneath, like along the bottom of the wall, like where the wall meets the floor on the sides of the bus. So you're not really going to see any of it. The only wires I have that are actually hidden behind the wall lining is actually the wires that I have in my Max Air fans in the ceiling. So my two Max Air fans, I've got wires from each of those running through inside the ceiling. And if you saw my video where I did the Foilboard installation, I think it was, I actually showed how I ran those wires through some heavy duty conduit, so they didn't come into contact with the foil board, and those wires will come out inside my overhead cabinets that I'm going to be running. So they're the only wires that are actually hidden inside the ceiling. The rest of my wiring is going to be inside the overhead cabinets, or inside, like at the back of the kitchen cabinets, along the wall on the sides of the bus. So hopefully you won't see it. I'm not having any lights in the ceiling itself. All of my lights are going to be either underneath the overhead cabinets, so the wiring for that can be hidden inside the overhead cabinets, or I may have some wall lights, so the wiring will come down sort of from the overhead cabinets in, like, inside the walls that I have at the front. Not sure about that yet, but most of the lights will be actually underneath the overhead cabinets. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question. Okay, next question. Mr. Binks, the cat, on YouTube, actually had a few questions. And by the way, Celia, if you're watching this, it was awesome meeting you at the market on the weekend. It's really cool to meet you guys who follow me on YouTube in real life. Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, so thank you, and I know I've answered some of these questions already when we were chatting, but I'll answer them here because I know some other people have similar questions. So your first question was, are you definitely getting a trailer, and if so, what kind? This is another one of those questions that's a bit up in the air for me at the moment. The honest answer is I don't want to get a trailer because I just don't want the hassle of having to tow something. It's going to mean the vehicle's a lot longer. It's going to make parking harder. It's going to limit my access to some places that I might want to go. It's just going to be a pain in the butt, basically, to tow a trailer. So I don't want to get one. But the reality is I'm probably going to have to, because I need to be able to continue my business on the road. And if you saw my last video, you'll see what I make. It's all handmade notebooks and stationery and a bit of jewelry and stuff. And the materials and the tools that I need to make that take up a lot of space. And they weigh a lot too. Paper's quite heavy, especially when you've got a lot of it. And I've got big tools like a big guillotine. I've got my sewing machine. I've got a binding machine, a printer. You know, I've got a lot of stuff that I need to carry in order to run that business. And there's a possibility that if I design things right, that I might be able to physically fit it into the bus. I mean, I have designed my layout to actually be able to fit a lot of that in, and I guess in the back of my mind I just have this dream that I will actually be able to carry it all on the bus and not need a trailer, and I can maybe do it in terms of the physical space, but I just don't think the coaster's going to have enough weight capacity to carry it. I mean, the maximum my coaster can weigh as it is at the moment is 4.99 tonne, and I'm going to need a lot of that just for the build itself and everything that I need to put in for that. I don't think there's going to be enough left over to be able to carry all the business stuff in the bus. We'll see. You know, maybe I'll just fluke it and have a super lightweight build and things won't weigh as much as I expect they're going to, and I will be able to fit it in. But I think the reality is I am going to need a trailer. So in terms of what kind of trailer, I'm probably just going to end up with an enclosed trailer that's a bit like, if you've seen the trailer that a lot of tradies have, that's got the doors that open up on each side and door at the back as well, and all the shelves in there with all the gear. That's probably the sort of trailer that I will end up with, because I think that's probably going to be the most affordable option for me. But my ideal, you know, if I have to tow a trailer, then my ideal would be to actually have a trailer that is big enough for me to be able to stand up and work in, as well as store my gear. So, you know, it would be great if I had a workbench in there and I could stand up and actually like make my stuff in the trailer, because I like the idea of having the house and my workspace completely separated. It's just nicer for mindset to have those two things separated, and trying to incorporate workspaces into the bus layout is a little bit tricky. So it would be fantastic if I had a trailer. I could just open the door, go in, and everything's set up, and I've got my workspace, and I can use that as my studio. The downside to that is that it would be a lot more expensive to do that way, because I'd obviously need a bigger trailer to start with. The trailer, if you're going to be working in there during the day, would need to be properly insulated. It would probably have to have, you know, a window or two. It would need a fan in the roof. I would need power connected to the trailer to run my printer and sewing machine and so forth in the studio. And I would probably even want to have like a little sink in there for washing my brushes and things, to, you know, so I didn't have to keep going from the trailer to the bus. So it would be quite expensive to do that, and I just don't think I'm going to have the money, sadly, to build a trailer like that. So I'm not really thinking too much about the trailer at this stage. I keep, you know, hoping in denial that I'm actually not going to need one at all, but I will wait to see when the bus is finished. I will see how much it weighs, see what kind of weight I have left over, how much stuff I can carry in the bus, how much I need to carry separately in a trailer, and then I'll work out what the best option is then. Okay, so your next question, Mr. Binks the cat, was, are you getting an ever shower? And the answer is probably yes. I've decided I'm not putting a built-in shower in the bus, because I just don't have the space. I would have to sacrifice other things and change my layout a bit to fit a built-in shower, and for me it's just not worth it. So my plan is to have a pop-up shower that I can use inside the bus, and the Ever shower is like the perfect example of that. It's basically a shower tent with a recirculating pump, and it's designed so that it can run on just a few litres of water. So you pour the water into the bottom of the shower, and the pump pumps it up, and, you know, it runs out of the shower head, falls back into the pan, and just keeps getting recirculating. And so you can have a shower for as long as you like on about 3 or 4 litres of water. the Evershower is quite expensive. Like they're about $400, and you can buy the pump separately. So I could rig up some kind of a DIY version if I had a suitable container for the base and just use a shower curtain or something. But one thing I like about the Evershower is, well, first of all, it's just designed to work straight out of the box, which is always easier than trying to rig up a DIY version. But also the base of it has a connection where you can connect a hose to drain the water out of the base. So rather than having to pick it up, like lift it up and tip it into a sink or tip it out somewhere, you can actually just have the water running out through a hose. And so what I'm thinking is I might rig up some sort of a connection like at floor level on my bus that runs down to the grey tank, that I can just connect when I want to use the shower. I can connect that hose connection in the side of the base straight into my plumbing that goes down into the water tank. Thinking about those options. But yeah, so I'm thinking about getting an Evershower. Again, that might have to wait a little bit till I've got a bit more moolah to spend. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking at the moment. And the next question is, what will be your setup for hot water? So I actually have already purchased an electric hot water system. It's the Aqueous RV hot water system. It's the same as the Duoetto, if you've heard of that one. The Duoetto runs on 12 volt and 240 volt. The one that I have, the Aqueous RV, is only 240 volt. And I got that one because I'm going to already have a lot of things running off 240 power. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to have plenty of solar and an inverter that will cope with it. And the 240 volt one will heat water much quicker than doing it on 12 volt. So I've actually already purchased that hot water system. But I haven't decided yet if I'm actually going to install it, because I purchased that originally when I was planning to put a built-in shower into the bus. And I wanted to have hot water that I could run through the shower. But now that I'm not having a shower, I don't know whether I actually need hot water on tap, because I only need hot water for washing dishes and washing myself. And most of the time I'm just going to have like a bucket and a cloth wash to wash myself. I'm also planning to use campground showers and things a lot of the time when they're available. So I'm not going to be using my Evershower or whatever system I have very often. And in any case, the way the Evershower works, you pour the water into the base of the thing. So I can actually boil water on my stove to get hot water for that. And if I want hot water for dishes, I can just boil the water and add it to my sink. I don't actually need it on tap. So I haven't decided what I'm actually going to do with that hot water system yet. I may end up not installing it at all and just boiling water when I need it for hot water. It does take up a little bit of space. It makes the plumbing a bit more complicated. And yeah, I don't know if I need it. But that's, if I do end up having hot water in the bus, then that's the system I'm going to be using. Okay, so another question. Slowly coasting on Instagram. How did you get your Foilboard so damn perfect? Well, thank you. Thank you. If that's the impression you got of my Foilboard installation, it wasn't perfect. Yeah, there was a lot of, especially in the walls where you've got like all those odd shapes and like triangle pieces that you have to cut to fit around the wall frames. There were quite a few gaps, and I just covered the gaps up with the tape. So when you look at, you know, the finished product, when it's all taped, all the joins are taped up, you don't realize that some of those joins between the Foilboard sheets might be like this far apart. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. I tried to get it as good as I could. Like, I spent a lot of time like measuring and trying to cut the pieces as accurately as I could. And I think I did a good enough job. Like, it seems to work okay. So yeah, but thank you. And I mean, I follow you guys on Instagram. I think your Foilboard looked pretty damn schmick as well. And you guys are actually making really good progress on your bus. So well done. I think you're going to be on the road way before me. Okay, so next question. So the final question. This one's from Olivia Grace on Instagram. And she asks, is there anything you would do differently on the bus if you were starting from scratch? This is actually a really good question, and I would probably answer this question differently like 6 or 12 months from now when the bus is totally finished and I've started living in it, because I'm sure there are going to be things that I've done that don't work as well on the road as I think they're going to, or things I'd like to change once I actually start living in it. But there are a couple of things, if I was going to start from scratch and do the bus again, there are a couple of things that I would change. The big one is my plans for the roof. So originally my plan was to put roof racks on the bus and to install all my solar panels onto the roof racks, because in the beginning I had so many issues with leaks in the bus and it took me so long to get it watertight. The last thing I wanted to do was drill a whole bunch of holes in the roof to mount my solar panels directly onto the roof. So I wanted to do the roof racks because obviously then you don't need to drill any holes in the roof. And I actually went ahead and bought the roof racks, which were very expensive, but I do have them. And so that was my plan. And I was just going to mount an awning to the roof racks, you know, like you see on the four-wheel drives in the vans that just have the awning coming off the roof racks. And a lot of people do that. But I'm starting to think that I would actually like to have a proper caravan awning that's attached directly to the side of the bus instead of just one that's attached to roof racks, because the problem that you have with an awning attached to roof racks is there's always going to be a little gap between the edge of the awning and the side of the bus, because you've got the roof rack bracket kind of sticking out in the middle. So water is going to be able to run down off the roof through that gap. Which means if it's raining and you wanting to get in and out the entrance door on the side, then you're going to get wet from the water coming down. And it means that you still can't open the windows really underneath the awning when it's raining, because you'll get water running down behind the awning, like in through the windows. I don't know how much of a issue that's going to be on the road, but the more I think about it, the more I think it would be nice to have a proper caravan awning. So if I want to get a proper awning now, I have to ditch the idea of putting my solar panels on roof racks, and I have to actually mount them directly to the roof, which means drilling holes. Now, of course, the problem I have now is that I've already insulated and fully lined the ceiling inside, and I've built walls up to the ceiling, so I can't pull, like it would just be, I'd have to pull everything out to be able to access the inside of the roof again from inside the bus. So now you don't have to be able to see the inside of the bus to mount solar panels to the roof, because a lot of people mount solar panels, you know, on aftermarket vans and things after the inside's been fit out. But I guess the concern that I would have is that if I can't see the inside of the roof, then I can't guarantee that any holes I drill in the roof are not leaking. I can do my best to seal them up, but you know, I'd like to be able to check, to visually see whether those holes are leaking, because if I've got water dripping down inside the roof cavity, then I'm not going to know that there's a leak there until it gets so bad that it's actually starting to rot the wood in the ceiling, or that it's coming through the ceiling causing issues. So I didn't want that. So one of the things I would do if I was going to do this bus again is that I would just forget about using roof racks. I would actually mount my solar panel rails directly to the roof, and I would do that at the start before I start to line the ceiling inside, so that I could make sure that all of those holes in where the bolts are coming through for the solar rails are all well sealed and that there's no leaks. So I think what I'm going to do is install the roof racks, because I've already got them, put my solar panels on, do it the way I was originally going to do it. If down the track when I've been on the road for a while it's really annoying me and I really want a proper caravan awning, I can always take the roof racks off and, you know, drill the holes in the roof and just cross my fingers that I do a good job of sealing them up. Anyway, so that would be the main thing I would change. And the other thing that I would change if I was going to start again with the bus would be the window tinting. Now, I got all the windows tinted in my bus, and the company that did them did an awesome job. Like, I don't have any issues at all with the quality of their work. There's no bubbles or anything in the film. It was really well done. But what I didn't realize was I didn't really understand about the different types of film that they use for the tinting. And when I sort of discussed what I wanted with the guy that was going to do it, my main issue was I needed something that was going to block out most of the UV light, because I've got a bad history of melanoma, skin cancer, and so that was a big thing for me. Like, I wanted to block as much of the UV light coming into the bus as I could. And so that's the kind of tint they gave me. It blocks out 99.9 something %, which is great. But they actually used, I found out later, they actually used polarized film, which I didn't even know was a thing. But so the way they've done it, it means that when the windows are all shut, you can see beautifully outside. Like, you've got a great view through the windows from inside the bus. But if you open one of the windows so that you get one panel of glass sliding in front of another, you get complete blackout because of this polarized effect of the film. So you can't actually see through the closed half of the window, which really, I mean, it blocks. I designed the layout of my bus so that I'd be able to sit on my bed or at my table and be able to see, you know, 2/3 of the passenger side of the bus. I'd have this really nice view. But the way that the windows have been tinted, I only get that if all the windows are shut, because as soon as I open a window, then I've got these blocks where, you know, it's all black and I can't see out of that half of the window, and it's really annoying. And it's also an issue on that window where my table is if the window's shut, but I've got the sliding door open, because the glass on the sliding door was tinted as well. And so where that door is in front of the window, you get that blackout, and it just really ruins the view. And it was just something I didn't know to ask about, because it never occurred to me that that was a thing. And I'm probably down the track, when I've got a little bit more money to spare, I'm probably going to get the current tint taken off a couple of the windows and have it redone in a different way so that I don't have that issue. But yeah, that's something to think about if you're going to get your windows tinted. Have a chat to them about that, because there's obviously different kinds of film and they don't all do that. It's only this polarized film that has that effect. So yeah, that would be another thing that I would change. But so far, most of the things I've done on the bus I'm actually really happy with, and they're kind of working out in real life the way they were working out in my head, which is nice. But yeah, who knows, after I've been living in it for a few months and I've been traveling on the road, there might be lots of things that I would change, and there might be like a whole other video on that. Who knows? Okay, so that's all the questions I had from you guys. Thank you so much to everyone who asked a question. Now, I have a question for you. I'm planning to get the bus weighed tomorrow, just to get a sense of how much weight the build is taking up so far, because I get a lot of questions about this because I'm using timber. People, you know, often immediately say, oh, how much does that weigh? That's going to be really heavy. So I'm actually going to get the bus weighed tomorrow just to see how I'm going in respect to that. So my question to you is, how much do you think my build weighs so far? This is what it looked like the last time I got it weighed. So it was fully stripped out, down to the frame. The only thing that I'd put back in was a new 18mm ply floor. At this stage, when I had it weighed, it didn't have the passenger seat in it, and it also didn't have the spare tyre on board. So when I had the bus weighed that time, it weighed 3,120 kilos. So since then, I've put the spare tyre back on, I've put the passenger seat back in, and I've insulated and lined the walls and the ceiling, and I've built all of this stuff in the bus. And so my question to you is, what do you think the bus weighs now? When it was empty, it was 3,120 kilos. How much extra weight do you think I've added so far? So let me know in the comments below, and in my next video, I'll be able to tell you the result.